welcome to the podcast. I was out yesterday and I don't even think I remember to post the one from the day before, so whoops. Yeah, it's kind of just a bit all over the place. This is really for me, not, this is not professional. I was talking to someone recently and they were like, oh, what's your podcast? And it was somebody that, like, I don't really want them to see my podcast. It's a little too vulnerable. I don't know them very well. And I was like, no, that's weird. I was like, no, don't look it up. Like, just don't. Like, so, but they were like, oh, but you're not gonna, like, it's not gonna, like, pop off. You're not gonna get, like, views if you keep telling people not to look at it. And I was like, for one thing, you're, like, one of the only people other than my family that I've told not to listen to this. And also, like, that's not why I'm doing this. Like, I'm absolutely not doing this to become popular or to get, like, the most views. It's cool, when I'm like, oh, wow, look at how many people watched this video. But it's more of, like, I hope that people can relate and maybe get something out of it. Not really looking to, like, become a thing. I think you can tell based on how unprofessional this is that it's not really for that. And it's also just kind of for me to get stuff out and to not be ashamed of expressing myself, really. Because I'm usually pretty good at, like, expressing myself physically, I guess, when it comes to, like, clothing or like tattoos or my glasses, like hair, like how I look. But I'm not normally very good at expressing myself verbally. Not that I can't, I just don't usually. I usually just have some apprehension, don't know what the right words are to say. And I think you can probably tell based off of, if you've listened to any other episodes of mine, especially towards the beginning, there were several times where I was like, I don't know what to say here, or I'm, like, trying to find my words. It still happens, but I feel like I'm getting a little bit better about it. It's getting warm now. It is pretty cold. It snowed yesterday here, like, probably about, like, 5 or 6 inches, so average. No, God, I've been listening to this one podcast. It's fantastic. Hilarious. I'm not gonna name it just because people will look it up and then they'll know the kind of weird stuff that I like to listen to. I might get more comfortable with admitting that I've been listening to this podcast later, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know who's listening to this. I don't know if people that I know are listening to this, so I'm gonna just, I don't know. I feel like people wouldn't be that surprised unless you're related to me. But anyways, very funny, very inappropriate. So it's maybe affected a little bit of my thought processes. So anyways, I've been kind of binging that this week. And because yesterday I was working from home, I just kind of had that playing on in the background while I was working, and it was hilarious. It made the workday go by. I don't know why working at home sometimes feels like more energy draining, just because I'm able to, like, really hone in and focus in. But then I'm focused for, like, 8 hours and it can be like, oh geez, now I'm tired. Instead of, like, at work, I kind of am not focused on one thing the whole time. But, again, I can do that. I got it done, I think I did a really good job. Hopefully everything's all set, and I feel like I got a lot done. I feel like it took longer than I thought, but I had to do a lot of stuff that I wasn't expecting either, and it worked out. And I actually, like, took my lunch, so it was good. Sorry, I've been, like, really thirsty and dehydrated. I had 2 dreams the other night of just like inhaling water. And then I woke up and was like, I have to drink water. Like, that's my body telling me I'm really dehydrated. But I was so tired. I did not want to get up. I was like, oh, God, do I have to? I lay there for like 5 minutes and I was like, yeah, no, I have to. Anyways, I digress. A lot of this is rambling. But today is probably going to be pretty easy. I don't know how many people are going to be out driving with the snow. I mean, it's pretty much all melted now. It like rained afterwards, so the roads are like clear. It didn't go below freezing last night, so we'll see. But there's still some snow on the ground. It still looks pretty, but it's a little like gross and cloudy and sleepy, so we'll see if I can stay awake. But we were doing this like dessert bar thing here, and so that was kind of fun. I did that Tuesday before the snow, and then they did it yesterday without me because I live far away and I wasn't about to try and drive an hour in that crap. There was like over 100 accidents in DC just on Tuesday, and I was like, what the hell? So, no. But maybe I'll just like eat a bunch of sugar and then I'll be great and then I'll fall asleep like when I get home or something. Not before, when I get home. Anywho. I'm almost to the end of the lessons that I've already done because, to be honest, I haven't done any lessons in like a week. However, my mind has been preoccupied with other things. You know, I've been busy. There's been stuff going on. But I do need to get back into this because I only have 2 more left, and I'm going to talk about the one today. And so I'm going to only have 1 more left, which will be great for tomorrow's episode. And then I got to get to working this weekend. Although I did like these 17 in like 4 days, so I'm sure I'll have plenty more once I actually focus. Yeah. Anywho, that's already a third of our episode right there. So today we're talking about implementing effective coaching techniques. So I would say I don't have a lot of personal experience with coaching somebody. I do have experience with like training new employees at different jobs. So I would say that's kind of close, similar. But it's not, you have this kind of external motivation because like you work there and they're paying you, as a new employee to like try and like do stuff. And I think that when it comes to coaching, it's a lot more of an internal motivation drive, and you have to kind of figure out ways to motivate somebody because they're not going to be motivated by, money or other things like that. So that's something that I'm looking forward to learning about, and just kind of relating the information that I already have, and finding new strategies to kind of help, and maybe it'll help with my training ability too. Who knows? But first off, I have establish trust and build rapport, creating a safe and supportive environment for clients to open up and engage in the coaching process. So, in the past, when I have had friends, or mostly friends, sometimes family, who like I know they're going through something, or I know they're like they're hesitant to tell me something, but I know they have something to tell me. Sometimes I know what it is, and I'm just like trying to coax it out of them. And then sometimes I don't know specifically what it is, but I know they're hiding something, and I know they want to say something, but they just don't know that I am ready to receive whatever they have to say, and that I am not going to judge them or whatever. So the way that I tend to do this is I share a story about myself that I think is going to be similar to what they're talking about. So, for one of my best friends, I knew that she had just been on a date with a woman. And I know that she has known me since I was 5, and I was raised very religious, and she knew all of that about me. And I don't know if we had had enough conversations related to my viewpoints on that topic for her to know that I was a safe person to talk to. And while I felt that was kind of sad, and I wish that things were different, I was like, well, I have to share about myself, and then maybe she'll feel comfortable sharing with me. So that's kind of how I did that. I was like, well, I just wanted to like let you know that, you know, while I've been in college and discovering things about myself and just growing up and figuring out what I really believe, apart from the way I was raised, apart from my family's beliefs, I told her that I'm bisexual. And she was like, no way. Well, I was just on a date with a girl last night. And I was like, I know. I saw the pictures. And like she had posted pictures. And she didn't say explicitly that they were on a date, but it was pretty freaking obvious. They were taking pictures together and like out late. And it wasn't the same type of pictures that she would post with her other girlfriends of just like, oh my god, look at us, we're so cute. It was like a picture of just the other girl doing something. And like, I don't know, it was different. I could tell it was different. I'd known her for like 12 to 14 years at this point. I was like, girl, I know. So it was just, but I didn't want to be like, hey, I saw that you were on a date with a girl last night. How did that go? You know, because I didn't want her to feel like I was attacking her, or like I didn't want her to think, oh, am I, able to really speak freely about this? And also, I think it's easier to talk to somebody when you know that they can relate to you. So for me, I was just talking with my partner's mom, and she was saying something about how she thinks that I'll be really good at coaching neurodivergent people because I am neurodivergent myself, and that it kind of can break down some of those barriers because people know that I can relate in some way to whatever it is they're going through. I can kind of understand what it's like. Even if I don't know specifically what it's like, I have more frame of reference personally than a neurotypical person might have. So I'm hoping to be able to kind of utilize my personal experiences in helping. That's one reason why I like the idea of coaching versus therapy. And I'm kind of, going this route instead of going the clinical route, because I can really share about myself too. I can really just be open and honest. And I think that that'll be more constructive, or at least a better approach for me personally to have, because that's just the way that I am. So anyways, tailor coaching techniques to individual needs and preferences, and diverse learning styles and communication styles for impactful coaching. So that's kind of like what the first few sessions I think will be about. First off, it'll be me kind of sharing about myself. Kind of building that rapport, Yeah, just kind of saying like, this is who I am, this is where, where I am coming from. And then kind of learning about them and what their Like, what's their neurodivergent, how are they neurodivergent? If they know, if they have a diagnosis, if they're suspecting, what are the things that they deal with? What are their preferred communication styles, and sometimes people don't know, and you kind of have to do a little bit of discovery there. So that's why I said the first like few sessions, because it probably wouldn't be able to get it all down in one. But I think that that could be a really that's a really important time frame to really set a foundation for what the rest of the process is going to look like. And because you don't, like, I don't want to waste anybody's time. I don't want to waste my own time. I don't want to waste anybody else's time. I definitely don't want to waste anybody's resources. I understand that, coaching's not free. I have to get paid. People have to, work really hard for what they have in order to pay me, so like that's something that like I'm not even sure I'm like fully prepared to do at this point, because I'm not to the point where I'm ready to start coaching someone. So the thought of like taking someone's money is like, but I do think that, down the line, when I am more confident and when I have like a good process kind of set up, it is really important to me to be, effective. And I don't want to, I hesitate to use the word efficient because it sounds like you're sacrificing quality, but I definitely don't mean that. I just mean maximum quality for the amount of time and money put in. Like, I just don't want to take advantage of anyone. And I hope that that really comes through. And I know that sometimes that's not the case, especially with these like unregulated forms of like coaching. And so I know that, there are people out there who just, are trying to make a quick buck, and that's absolutely not me. If I was trying to make a quick buck, I wouldn't be doing this, that's for sure. I really genuinely care about people, and I want to make sure that they get the most out of their time with me. So yeah, definitely want to make sure that I really learn about them, as much as they're willing to share with me, and try to make it as effective as possible. Empowering clients to lead goal setting promotes ownership and motivation in working to outcomes. Constructive feedback helps identify areas for growth and improvement. So I definitely think that setting your own goals is pretty important. Like, you want to, if you have the internal drive to do something, it's going to be a lot stronger than somebody telling you need to do something. Especially if you're demand avoidant. That's like the worst thing. So, I really just kind of want to be a cheerleader and also like a confidant for people who are trying to, achieve their goals. Especially right now, it can be really isolating and lonely, and it's really hard to achieve new goals without having anybody kind of in your corner. And I know it's like, oh, paying somebody to be in your corner, like, do they really care? Yeah, I do care, a lot. And I just can't put the amount of time and effort into that many people without being compensated for it. It's like, yeah, I have friends. I'm not going to coach my friends, like that's kind of stepping over a line. Like, I can be like support for them. But I'm not going to like do this deep dive kind of stuff with friends of mine unless they really, really want to. And I would only be able to do that with like two or three people, because friendship requires, more access to me, essentially. We're doing other activities together. Our lives are a lot more intertwined. And having that kind of level of attachment to someone is way more intense and draining than, say, coaching would be. Because coaching, I'm not going to be friends necessarily with my clients. There's got to be some professional the structure to it, I guess. And so also, like, one of the benefits of having a coach versus a friend is you kind of have this more objective viewpoint. You don't know all of the characters and their stories intimately, you're able to kind of step back from things. And I feel like as a friend, you're going to have some of your judgments clouded. So I think, that's why it's beneficial to have a coach versus a friend in certain circumstances. I definitely think you should have both. But some people, are at different stages in their life, and I wouldn't want to make them feel bad at all for not, having good friendships. And that's something that we can work towards in coaching. Just empowering people to make better friendships and relationships, and who to look for, what to look for, what are red flags that you need to keep in mind for yourself that may not be stereotypical red flags, but you're neurodivergent and you have different needs, and sometimes there's certain things that aren't going to work for you that might be normal, if you can't see, I did air quotes. But yeah. Positive reinforcement acknowledges progress and boosts confidence and motivation. Oh, I know I left out constructive feedback, but like that is kind of like being what's the word? Keeping somebody accountable, I guess. Because you don't really you want to do that in a positive way, especially when you're in a coaching situation where, this person may really need somebody to be, this positive, force in their life because they're, struggling to do it on their own. And it's important to keep those goals in mind and to not look at things from the perspective of oh, I failed because I didn't meet this goal in the amount of time that I wanted to, or something didn't meet my expectations and now I feel awful, because that happens to me all the time, and that's not constructive. That just breaks you down and feels like you're not capable, and you don't even want to try to set another goal because you feel like you're just not gonna ever make it. So it's definitely important to look at it from okay, how can we set a more realistic goal this time? What's a baby step that we can set along the way for this? How about we not put a time limit on right now? Why don't we just take this one step at a time, see how it goes? Make sure we're doing the steps, but not, having these strict deadlines or, grandiose plans that, probably are going to be really difficult to do. Maybe we set that as a long-term goal, and let's work on some shorter term things that we know we can achieve, so we can start building our confidence. I know I need to do that. And I've been trying. I've been doing better. trying to exercise more. It's something that's really tough for me. I have a really hard time motivating myself to exercise. I have been blessed with a relatively nice figure, at least stereotypically speaking. I've never been overweight. Not even close. I've been underweight. And therefore, I've never really felt the outside pressure to have to exercise. There's never been anyone saying like, oh, you need to work out. Which is horrible, and don't do that to people. But because I've never experienced that, and I've always just kind of had a look that people accepted, and I don't really enjoy exercising most of the time. I like doing activities that have a purpose, but to me, just exercising for the sake of exercising doesn't feel like a purpose. It's not a good enough purpose for me. So I've been trying to just like, okay, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna do it because I need to, and it's healthy, and the purpose is for me to feel better. Because I do have all these things. I've been having joint pain and that kind of stuff, and I'm like, well, maybe it's finally time for me to kind of kick it into gear and actually exercise. And it's not about how I look, because how I look has never been a problem. It's also never been a huge motivator for me. I've never been somebody who's like, oh yeah, I really want to look like that. Like, yeah, occasionally I've been that way. Never enough to really make me do something though. Like, it's like, I don't give a shit. I look how I look. If you don't like it, then keep that to yourself, and I don't care. So I think that for me, it's been like trying to find the motivation for that. I think that it helps to have other people, though. It helps to have people in your corner that can kind of say, hey, let's work on, what are some things that would motivate you? What are things that motivate you in other areas that we can apply to this? Instead of just doing it all by myself, which I do. So, again, I am training to be a coach when I have, not experienced it myself. So probably by the end of this, I will want to actually experience what it's like to work with a coach, see how it is, get some firsthand knowledge, because I don't want to jump into something without feeling like I am really going to be able to make a positive impact. I definitely don't want to mess it up, Approaching challenges with compassion fosters a supportive, non-judgmental coaching environment. Yes. So stuff's gonna happen. I'm trying to not curse too much on this, but anyways, stuff's gonna happen. Things are gonna happen. I think we all have the inner critic, the person who just, the voice in your head that just tells you that you're a failure anytime something bad happens. And I know that for me, it can be really hard to shut that voice up. And it's really helpful to have somebody or multiple people that can say, hey, I think your inner critic's getting a little too loud, Why don't we look at the things that you did do? You may not have done it 100%, but look at what you did accomplish. That was pretty great. And, it doesn't mean that you failed. You got 80%. That's a B. You're good. It's not like I was also always a perfectionist in school. If it wasn't an A, I had to redo it. My parents kind of instilled that in me, but also I think it was just, I don't know if it's a genetic thing that you're stubborn as fuck, but that definitely came through for me. I think it's maybe something that you learn, but you learned it at such a young age, you're not even aware you're learning it. So yeah, fun. But you do need that person that's going to come along and be like, you actually did a really good job. And you're going to do a really good job on what you do next time, too. Even if you got to kind of reset your thought process on a couple things and you're like, hey, I tried to run a mile when I've never even run, a quarter of a mile before. So maybe I should set my goals a little bit more realistic and I can set the 1 mile goal for, a couple months from now after I've done this multiple times and know that I can do it. It's a hard thing for me. I know I struggle with it, and I think that might actually be a good thing when I'm trying to help someone, because they can come to me and say that, hey, I set this big goal for myself and I couldn't do it and I feel like I'm a failure. And I'm like, yeah, I know how that feels. But you're not a failure. You just need to set an easier goal and achieve that and then keep moving incrementally from there. So, yeah. Definitely got to have that self-compassion, and sometimes you don't have it for yourself, so you got to, get it from someone else. Flexibility and strategies to the client's needs. Yeah, definitely. Got to meet people where they're at. Doesn't matter what what they're dealing with. Sorry, it's sleepy today. Utilize strength-based strategies. I won't go too much into that because we've already done several episodes on that. But yeah, lifting people up, finding out what they're really good at, using those things to, push them forward, and not necessarily in the physical way, but like using that to kind of lift them up. Like, hey, look at how good you are at those things. That's awesome. And you shouldn't, belittle those and think that they're not important, because those are very important things that you're good at. Measure progress and celebrate milestones, adjusting strategies as needed and motivating their development. So yeah, pretty much all of the stuff I've been talking about. Setting up those incremental goals so that we can celebrate along the way and take a look at how far you've come. And yeah, like I've been trying to do the same thing for myself, I've been trying to do, my cardio sucks. I mean, pretty much everything physically about me is out of shape. I don't look like it, I just am. So it's like, yeah, people are like, oh, but you look great. I'm like, oh, well, thanks, but no. So I've been trying to do the stairs here because I'm working like a 5-story building with a roof access. So it's like 6 stories of stairs. So I've been trying to walk up, go to the other staircase because there's 2 stairwells in the building, go back down and around, and just keep doing that motion. Just keep going up, down, and around. And just, I've got an hour for break. I gotta eat lunch too. So, depending on how I'm feeling, I'll do that first, then eat. Or I'll eat and then do that. Just depends. I never get too rigorous with it because I'm not that person. I don't, maybe one day, but I doubt it. Just not a intense workout kind of person. I never have been. Things are intense enough in my head. Okay, I don't need that shit. But I did it like 6 times one day, and then the next day I did 8 times, and I was like, okay, look at that. Then I went to the other building, and they only have 1 stairwell, and same story, number of stories, but I wasn't going around in like a loop, so I wasn't getting that kind of cool down walking from one side of the building to the other. And yeah, I didn't feel, I was only able to go 6 times up and down, 6 or 7, I don't remember. I lost count and I was like, oh damn. But I was still like so proud of myself. I was like, yeah, I didn't do 8, even though I was really hoping for 10 because, I can keep trying to push myself. But like, I still did 6, I still did it. I didn't just sit at the desk like, oh, I don't feel like it today, because I do that all the time. So just trying to be proud of myself for what I've accomplished. It doesn't always have to be better than the last thing that I did. I did something and I didn't just sit on my ass. So, anyways, it's important to recognize those wins. Set and maintain clear boundaries and ethical practices, ensuring respectful and professional coaching, which is kind of what I was saying earlier. Like, it's very important to be professional, and have, like, I want to be able to share my own stories, things that have happened to me, and be relatable. But it also has to be professional. There's got to be, we're not hanging out after coaching to talk shit, like, that's not something we're gonna do. And I think that it's important to maintain those boundaries, unless, of course, at some point somebody's like, actually, I'm done with coaching, I feel like I've really improved and I don't need this service anymore, but I'd really like to stay in touch. And that's possibly, something that would be acceptable because you're no longer, in that kind of a role. But, yeah. And, definitely making sure you're not getting into like a physical relationship with somebody you're coaching. Like, that's absolutely unacceptable. Just the amount of damage that could cause to somebody's psyche. Like, you do not want to mess with that. That's why with therapy, can't do that. You shouldn't be doing that in coaching either. I don't care if it's unregulated, just don't do it. So, yeah. If things start getting weird, shut that down. If somebody's like, oh, like, I actually really, I really like you, or I've really started to like develop feelings for you, you have to be like, well, then I think we might need to discontinue this. I can try and find you a new coach that might be able to have more effective communication with you, because I don't want to put you or myself in a position where this could get uncomfortable for anyone. So yeah, very important to have those boundaries, and to really care about the other person, though. Like, if they come to you and they're like, this is how I feel, and that's really vulnerable for them to even say that. So you don't want to be like, oh, no, like, just respectfully, like, I don't think that this is the best coaching relationship for you, and I care about you, and let's find somebody who might be able to communicate more effectively. So yeah, it's a tough line to walk, and I'm definitely gonna have to learn a little bit more about that, because I don't know if that's gonna happen to me. It's happened in relationships before where I'm like, this was supposed to be just not serious, and here you are falling in love with me, and I didn't want this, and I said that already when we first met, and it doesn't matter because that just happened. And so it's like, definitely don't want that happening in this type of situation. I'm not gonna stand for that. But you really have to be kind. I would hate for somebody to be vulnerable with me and then feel like I disregarded them. Like, that's absolutely never the goal. But I gotta get going. It is time for me to work, and I really appreciate you listening to all of my things, all the ranty bits. And yeah, this has been fun. I feel like I'm getting better at this. Maybe. I don't know. You tell me. Are you enjoying any of this? Anybody who's been listening for a little while? yeah. I will be back on tomorrow, and then I gotta get to work learning more. So, yeah. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, whatever it is that you're up to, and that you'll remember that you are enough.